All right, Evan and I are back. We're gonna be playing the 2-3. Evan might take a shot at 5-5. We'll see. We'll see how the games are. Yeah, that's it. Wish us luck. Evan, someone asked if you had any tips on how to get dealt aces as many times as you did. Do you have any tips?
You don't. You gotta
run good.
Run good.
That's it. Run good. So as usual, I sit down at a 2-3 table. In this session, I probably ran as well as I could have possibly asked for. Very early on in the session, I had pocket kings in the small blind. The under the gun player raised to 15. The under the gun +1 player called, and then the cutoff put out a very small 3-bet to $40. Not knowing that the under the gun +1 player called the initial raise, I ended up 4-betting to 125. Probably would have made it a little bit bigger, but it doesn't matter too much for this hand. The original raiser folds. The under the gun +1 player actually back raises and 5-bet shoves for 178, I believe. The cutoff didn't have much more behind, so he ends up making the call, and I obviously make the call when it folds back to me. So we have a 3-way all-in pre-flop, and the under the gun +1 player actually shows his hand right away, and he had 6-4 of spades. So since I filmed the rest of this hand, I'll just let it run and let you see what happened.
Oh, he's live. He is live. Wow. Only one more. 8. No, 8 don't know. Quads. You got it. Get in here, eh? You're in it. Cover. Yeah. That I saw right now. Cover.
So the cutoff ended up having ace-jack offsuit, which he called a 5-bet with. So interesting hand. Ended up picking up a pretty big pot early in the session. And as I was filming, the player 2 seats to my left actually offered to film for me. So he got this shot that you're about to see.
Can you take a video of you?
Sir? Oh, sure. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's recording, right?
Yeah.
No, not me.
Not him. He doesn't want his mic. I'll blur you out. Thank you, dealer. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm Kit. Nice to meet you. There was another player at that table as well who mentioned to me that he watched the poker vlogs. His English wasn't very good, but I think he was trying to tell me that his face was almost in one of the vlogs, and he was worried about his wife seeing him. So yeah, kind of funny, but he was super friendly. So off to a great start so far in this session. Pretty soon afterwards, I am in under the gun +1, and I have pocket jacks. The under the gun player raises to 12. I 3-bet to 40, and action folds back to the under the gun player, and he makes the call. So we're going heads up to a flop, which comes Jack 5-8. So we have the nuts here, flop top set. My opponent checks to me, and I put out a C-bet for $45, and he ends up confidently check raising me to 145. So he doesn't have too much left behind, about 130 or so, and I decide to shove here, which I don't like looking back on it, but at the time, I just figured the money was going to go in either way. Definitely should just be flatting here though, and trying to rep something like an overpair so that he could continue. And there's pretty much no possible card that can come on the turn that I'm afraid of. So I should just let him keep barreling. But either way, he ends up making the call. Board runs out. I show my hand and he mucks. So we ended up picking up another pretty big pot. In the very next hand, I'm in the big blind. The reason I'm in the big blind instead of being under the gun is because the player who I just played against ended up leaving after that hand. And I look down at ace-king of clubs while I'm still pulling in my chips. The under the gun +2 player opens to $11 and gets 3 callers. I decide to 3-bet to 55, although I think I should have gone much bigger here. Looking back, I would have probably made it 65 to 70. Anyways, the under the gun +2 player ends up making the call, so we're going heads up to a flop, which comes Jack 5-7, 1 club. I decide to C-bet here. I make it $80. I think I can get some better hands to fold, like under pairs, and I think I'm occasionally getting value from hands like 10-9, 9-8, 8-6, things like that. My opponent makes the call, so we're going to a turn, which is the 5 of clubs, bringing in a backdoor flush draw. Normally, when I pick up equity on the turn, I would bet, but my opponent didn't have too much left behind, and I guess I just convinced myself that he had like a jack here or something like that, so I did think I could push him off it, and I decided to slow down and just check. I would have liked to shove better here, but as played, my opponent ends up betting $50 into me, and now the pot's big enough to where I'm actually getting more than enough direct odds to hit my nut flush, and an ace or a king on the river will probably make my hand good as well. So I make the call, of course. The river is the beautiful queen of clubs, so we end up making the nut flush here. My opponent only has 40 something left behind, so I decide to just shove into him. I don't want to give him an opportunity to check back. My opponent's visibly frustrated, but he actually makes the call, and he ends up showing 10-9 of clubs after I showed my hand. So interesting that he seemed kind of frustrated to make the call in the river, but this next hand begins with the under the gun +1 player, who is a semi-maniac, I would say. He's the same player who called the 5-bet shove with ace-jack offsuit. in the hand where I had kings. He raises to $25, which is actually normal for him. He had been opening for $20 to $25 most of the time. I'm in under the gun +2 with 8-6 of spades. I decided to make the call. The under the gun player had about $500 effective, and I had him covered. So I would have preferred a 3-bet to isolate since the table was pretty loose and call happy, but I ended up taking the more passive route and called, and there were 3 more calls. So we're going 5 ways to a flop, which comes 4, 9, 5, 2 hearts, 1 spade. The blinds check to the under the gun player, who bets $50. I'm not going to go anywhere yet with my gut shot and my backdoor flush opportunity, so I ended up making the call, and everyone else folds. The turn is the 6 of clubs, giving me a pair. My opponent continues betting and puts out a bet of $25 this time, which is tiny. Obviously going to call here with these stack sizes. I now have 2 pair and 3 of a kind outs, so I make the call. Unfortunately, the river is a complete blank, so we only have a pair of 6s here, and I'm pretty much done with the hand. But my opponent actually tanks for like 1 minute before deciding to act. He plays around with his chips as if to bet, and then he ends up checking it over to me. So I think he was just giving up on the hand, so I'm very happy to check back. And he doesn't seem to want to show his hand. I just wait for him to show.
1 pair. 2 pair? 1 pair, 1 pair. Go ahead. Can I open it up?
And after actually a pretty long time, he turns over his hand pretty angrily, and he had king queen. So ended up winning here with the pair of 6s. This is the very last hand of the session, and it was immediately after the previous one I just talked about. So I'm in under the gun +1 with king jack of spades, and I open it up to $15. I get 4 calls, and then the semi-maniac player who was in the previous hand is now in the big blind, and he makes it 78.
Gotta re-raise.
Action is back on me, and his 3-bet size was actually very small. So I decided to make the call here, given how loose this player was playing and how spewy he was, in addition to him being pretty tilted from the last hand. I think it's very likely that I might be ahead here. The hijack and the cutoff end up making the call as well, so we're going 4 ways to a flop, and it is already about $340. The flop comes 10 jack 9 rainbow, no spade. So we end up hitting top pair, and we have a gut shot as well, and the big blind doesn't slow down. He ends up shoving his remaining $308 into the pot, and now I have kind of a tough decision, or what I thought was a tough decision at the time. If I was heads up against this player, I would snap call, but there is the fact that there are 2 other players left to act behind. So I actually thought about it for a while, and while I was still thinking, another player was asking how much time players usually get to make a good decision, and then the 2 players in the hand started talking to him and telling him, like, I don't know, like 5 minutes for a big decision.
When it's a big hand, who usually give them more than enough, like 5 minutes?
Just the way they were talking made it seem like they weren't interested in the hand and that they were going to fold. So I guess I just convinced myself that they were done with the hand after the big blind shoved. So I ended up reshoving since I covered the other players as well. Action is now on the hijack, who says, okay, I call, and then the cutoff shrugs and makes the call as well. So we're almost definitely behind here. So we have a 4-way all in on the flop, and you can see what happens.
Okay, now hold on. I'm gonna do a couple of pots right now, so.
Don't pair the board. I've already flopped it.
You need a pair?
I need a pair.
I need 167 from you.
If you want, you can chop.
If you are asking to chop, then I might
If
be
you
ahead
want,
of
we
you.
can chop now.
But they're in the hand still.
I need 140 from you also.
Yeah.
You get it.
Queen, queen, queen. Yes.
So right now for this pot though, it's between these 2. So he shows a set of 10s for
You're
this
good.
pot right here.
You're good.
So you win this one.
What?
Right here. He's
Man, the flush, that was like fun. Really?
and now you get this one. Get out okay.
On the flop.
The hijack showed his hand before the turn and the river were dealt, and he had queen 8 offsuit for a flop straight. So he has one of our outs, and the cutoff ended up having pocket 10s for a flop set, and then the big blind, who was the semi-maniac who shoved, ended up having 7-5 of hearts. So yeah, queen 8 ended up winning the main pot, and then pocket 10s ended up winning the side pot. Don't like the way I played this hand. I think I could have just looked for a better spot there, and that's one of the problems with me just calling out of position. It led to a much more difficult decision on the flop. I talked to Evan about this hand after our session, and he said one option he would have considered is actually 4-betting if I put the 3-better on such a wide range, since he was a very loose and kind of spewy player. By 4-betting, I push the others out of the hand almost all the time since they just called my initial raise, and then I can just play heads up against the maniac, which in this specific situation would have ended up in me winning the hand. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think of 4-betting there. I think I wouldn't have ever considered that, but it seems like a decent option. That ended up being the biggest hand of the night, and I think the biggest pot I've ever played. I think it was a little under $1,500 after everyone was all in. I went from having a 1.2k stack, I believe, to it being down to like 860 or so. So not the greatest hand I've played. Still though, we ended up booking a win. Bought in for $300. Cashed out for $848 for a $548 profit in 3.5 hours. So pretty good session.
848.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, just finished up a session. This is Javier.
What up?
We never actually formally met, but he actually used to play at the home game that I used to play at. He recognized me from the vlog and messaged me on Instagram, and here we are playing a session. So he played some 2-3 today, and he said he has quite a few hands to cover. So
And I'm the most famous poker dealer in LA.
nice, nice. Yes, he's also a dealer, so you
Yeah,
might have
yeah.
seen him around.
This hand, I think I played bad. So I had ace queen of clubs, middle position. There was 2 limpers, $3. I made it 20. The guy in the button, which by the way is an Asian guy, and I played with him before, and he's a really tight player. He made it 50. Then the guy to my right, the limped in, also called. So I'm thinking this guy to my right might have like a pocket pair, and he's like maybe set mining. But him, I know that his range is gonna be like pocket 10s and up, or ace king.
the tight Asian guy.
The tight Asian guy, because
Okay.
he's barely puts in the hand. I call, the flop comes out king, queen, 8.
King, queen, 8.
Rainbow,
Rainbow.
right? The first guy checks, I check. He bets 90, the other guy folds, so now we're heads up. And then he has the bottom of the 120 left. This is what my thought process was, right? If I'm beating him, right? And I go all in, he's gonna fold. If he has jacks and I just call, then on the turn, I can either put him all in on the turn. And I figure that because I checked the flop, he's not gonna put me on a king or a queen. So I might get him to call with jacks. Because now my hand seems kind of bluffy.
So you call the pot would be 330.
I think that a lot of times players can call you up like everything that you're bluffing. Anyway, so I go all in. On the turn, it was a blank. He calls me.
Okay.
And he did put a face like kind of weird. It was like, so I think like when I look back at the hand, I was a little upset with myself because out of the whole table, that's the guy that I would probably fold to almost anything, and I was out of position. There's only 3 things that you have an advantage of. Is either the cards are better than the other player, you're a better player than the other player, or you have position him. And I had none of that. You know, this last hand that I play right now, when you were at the table,
Yeah.
I had queen 10 of hearts on the big blind. Somebody makes it 15, middle position. He covered me. Another guy on the button calls. The guy to my right calls. Pot comes out, king 10 with 2 spades. And I decided to basically donk bet into this hand.
Okay.
Because a lot of times you get action that way, or they're getting a re-raise. I bet 20. I get 2 callers, which was the guy, the original raiser, and the guy on the small blind. Turns like a queen, so a full house, and it was a great card because I mean, if they were on a straight draw, they could have a smaller boat, you know. I mean, so I was about to bet the original raiser. As soon as I started to cut out my chips, I saw that he went for his cards, ready to muck. So I just paused for a little while,
Yeah.
and so then I just checked back. He checked it. River is a jack of spades. Perfect card because it puts all the flush.
Yeah, 4 to a straight.
Puts smaller boats. Puts the
It completes the flush?
It completes the flush. Yeah, there was
Okay.
2 spades on the flop. The guy to my right, he bets out 60, and it is time for a little while. I'm like, well, you know, like how much more to make it? It's gonna pay me off because I'm like the flush got there, so he could easily have a flush, right? He could have a straight. I decided that he could call like another bet for 100, so I bet 100 more, and it tanks for a little while. It's a little table talk after that, and he just ends up folding. And the last one I'll talk about, I'm under the gun, I have ace of diamonds, king of hearts, mega raise at $12. The guy to my left calls, the button calls, I believe. So 3 to the flop comes out. Queen jack of clubs with blank cards, a 5, I think.
Okay.
So afterwards, the guy shot. So I see bet about 20. The guy to my left, which covers me, calls, so the guy folds. So it hits up to the turn. Turn comes out as gin, fucking 10.
Nice.
And it puts 2 flush draws out there, right? So I'm never checking in this spot because he's gonna have so many hands that he's going to be on a draw on, and also he could have smaller
2 pair.
straights.
Yeah.
2 pairs.
Ace, queen,
So,
queen, jack, queen 10, jack 10.
yeah, I bet 65. He times for a little while, and then he calls me, right? The river, it was a deuce. So I figured out if he was on a flush draw, I want to give him the opportunity to bluff. If he has a good hand, he's gonna bet anyway. So he bets 100. He had about another 50 left. So I just put him all in for the 50, and he mucked.
Wow.
So he's
Okay,
bluffing
okay.
into the hand.
Okay,
Probably with a flush
interesting.
draw and just break it. You know?
Yeah.
My session's not over. I'm still playing. I started with 200, and right now I have about 550, something
Okay.
like that. Yeah.
Nice.
And you know, it's not bad because my table was pretty fucking dead. So good.
Yeah. All right. Hey man, good. Hey, I appreciate you hitting me
I
up,
appreciate
and
you, bro.
good luck for the rest of your session.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man. You too.
All right.
Okay.
Put it up. Hey everyone, thanks for watching the vlog. Before I end the video, I have a non-poker related announcement. On April 13th of 2016, I started this video project that involved me taking a selfie every single day, just like this, and making it into a time lapse, which I called face lapse. It's been just over 2 years since I took the first photo, and I finally posted the video that has all the first year's worth of photos. I would really appreciate it if you took the time to check it out. Click the link at the end of this vlog to watch it, and if you like the video, please like the video. Leave a comment if you want to, and please share it if you'd like to as well. It's my most proud video project that I've done, and I'm still continuing to take a photo every single day. So let's see if we can make it go viral. Thank you guys very much. I hope you enjoyed this vlog. It took a lot of time as well too, so if you'd like this video, that would be great. I'll see you in the next one.
And I recall a lot of smoking. I wanna lose a couple days. We probably never struggle coping, but I never want to.